GUMAA, the beginning of her, number 5, brings Brenna closer to the truth about Khalida's cult, but her relationship with Manuel could spell trouble. We've got the review right here. See you in 3. Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of GUMAA, the beginning of her, number 5 from Titan Comics. But before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. Your attention is greatly appreciated, and make sure you stay tuned to the end for the final score. Let's talk about the credits. This issue was written by Ji-Hyung Lee with art by Nabetsi Zitro and Ji-Hyung Lee, who also did the colors and the letters. The main cover, cover A, is drawn by Ben Oliver. Let's talk about what happened in issue number 4 before we get into the meat of this issue. We jump forward in time now to the present. People are becoming possessed by demonic energy, and they're becoming this sort of ravenous undead horde called the Maagi. The only people who can stop the Maagi, besides shooting and killing them, is Khalida, who is now the Holy Mother in charge of what used to be called the Luciel Cartel, is now the Luciel cult, or the Luciel religion. So people run to her church for safe haven, and there she's able to take the Maagi and cure them, which seems all well and good. Unfortunately, people are starting to get suspicious, as particularly Detective Ken, that something isn't on the up and up. Because how does Khalida have this magical power? Where is she getting the holy water? How does she work the magical dagger and do all these things to stop the Maagi when she sort of came out of nowhere? Meanwhile, Brenna, who is now grown up and kind of a badass assassin, is killing Maagi and trying to figure out what's going on, and has formed a tentative alliance with Detective Ken. That brings us to issue number 5. So where we catch up with Detective Ken, who's doing research on small, potentially occult artifacts or small mystical artifacts that he's gathered from around the city and around the country, because he's sort of obsessed with treasure hunting mystical artifacts, and he's trying to connect the dots about Khalida, the Luciel religion, and the magic dagger and the holy water, and trying to piece it all together. However, his boss says she's helping us out by getting the Magi off the street and curing them and exorcising whatever demonic powers within them. She's helping us out by taking that burden off our shoulders. Stop investigating her, stop trying to make an enemy out of her. But Ken realizes something's up, something is not quite smelling right, and he refuses to give in to what his commander orders him to do, and therefore he just up and quits. But he takes whatever he has with him to say, look, I'm not going to work for you anymore, because you're clearly not going to do your job of being a good detective by investigating things that don't seem right, but I'm going to keep going, and even if that means giving up my job. We cut over to Khalida, who's sitting on her throne in her holy temple, and she orders Manuel to find out what is the detective up to. And apparently Khalida is on the search for one particular mystical artifact or ancient artifact of particular power. We don't know what it is or why she wants it, but she sends Manuel out to continue to search for it. And Manuel is the one who planted the seed with Detective Ken that there might be an artifact out there that is very important to Khalida and will have special significance to the Luciel cult. Then we cut over to Brenna, who has killed a couple of the Magi in a dark alley, and she's trying to figure out, and she manages to splash them with the holy water that she got from Detective Ken in the previous issue, because it comes in handy and it's a very powerful tool. But after she kills some of the Magi, she's confronted by 2 of Khalida's exorcists, who are these robed, hooded figures, because they are been ordered to find her, capture her, and bring her to Khalida, whether she wants to or not. She winds up shooting one of them down, who recovers, but she gets injured in the fight, and she runs off back to her apartment. Just when she thinks, she's recovering and she's bandaging up her shoulder and recovering from her injuries, another exorcist shows up at her front door, and it turns out that exorcist, when he takes off his robe and his hood, is Manuel. And Manuel says, you've got to train harder, you've got to be better. So it appears that Manuel and Brenna have a relationship, in the sense that he's on her side, or encouraging her to continue to fight and to dig and to form some sort of opposition to whatever Khalida is planning. We don't know exactly why, but we know that he has a past history, obviously, with Khalida, because she was the one who scarred his face, even after he was very abusive and domineering towards her in the first part of the series. While they're talking, another exorcist manages to sneak into the apartment through an open window, and Manuel kills him. But when he goes to investigate how he got into the apartment, he sees that a second exorcist saw what was going on and has run off and is now headed back to Khalida to report what happened. We get back to Khalida, who receives the information from the exorcist that Manuel and Brenna may be in cahoots with each other, and that sort of gives her a little bit of a motivation to dig in to find out what Manuel's up to, which may spell trouble for him in the future. And that's how we end the issue. What do we like about GUMAA, the beginning of her number 5? The mystery is building. The mystery in the sense that we don't know exactly whether or not Khalida is trying to destroy the world or trying to save it. From all outward appearances and even the inward appearances, it looks like she might be more evil than good. What her motivations are building, and we don't know what her plan is, but it looks like it's starting to come together one piece at a time. We have the mystery about what the ancient artifact that she's looking for or sending her people out to look for. So there's a little bit of a mystery there. And we also have the added tension with Brenna and Manuel now being found out, and now they're potentially going to be chased down and either captured and or killed. So that adds some urgency and some drama to the situation. So there's a lot of good things that are stacking up as far as a combination of mystery, drama, urgency, and anticipation for discovering everything that's as it starts to come together. What didn't we like about GUMAA, the beginning of her number 5? Honestly, not much. Anything that we could pick on is just that, little minor nitpicks. There's one or two odd transition periods where we go from Brenna running through the alleyways and being chased to all of a sudden she's in her apartment, but the exorcists that were chasing her don't chase her. I mean, it seemed they wanted her to lead her to her apartment, so they wanted to find out where she's been hiding out. So there's a little bit of that sense of why they pull back, but that whole transition the timing felt off, especially when Manuel shows up. And how did the exorcists not know he was showing up when they should have been watching the apartment? I don't know. The timing of that whole scenario didn't make sense, but that's a minor nitpick. Overall, this is a really entertaining and engaging issue. All right, switching gears to talk about the art. Ji-Hyun Lee and Betsy Zitro, their art is fantastic. It is whimsical in a sort of urban fantasy kind of way. The costume designs are amazing. The magical elements are kind of interesting in the sense that they feel supernatural but believable at the same time. And the whole look feels very sort of cinematic and realistic, but there's an element that makes it feel like a true fantasy story. So the art is just amazing in this issue, and then obviously because Ji-Hyun Lee is more known as an artist than a writer, but yeah, if you're into amazing looking art, this is definitely the issue to get. Final thoughts. GUMAA, the beginning of her number 5 from Titan Comics, has great action, lots of strong fantasy elements and supernatural elements, interesting mysteries that are building and expanding and pulling you into the world that Ji-Hyun Lee has created. On the downside, any flaws are just minor nitpicks that take away from the story a little bit, but not too much. Overall, it's just a very interesting and engaging issue. Therefore, we're going to give GUMAA, the beginning of her number 5 from Titan Comics, an 8.8 out of 10. Do you like fantasy series? Do you like urban fantasy series, which this I think qualifies? Or do you like your fantasy a little bit more traditional, like Dungeons and Dragons, as an example? Let us know in the comment section your thoughts about this series if you're reading it, or if you're not, are you interested in it? Let us know. Otherwise, please stay tuned through the outro for the next review.